The following may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hiker's body found after massive search. The body of a hiker was recovered yesterday after a massive search and recovery effort. The hiker is believed to have drowned after being swept away in the Marion River in Blanchisseuse on Saturday. According to preliminary information from the police, the victim's name is Alexander Beepath. According to the police, it is believed Beepath, who was hiking in the area with a group, went swimming in the river but encountered difficulty. He was presumed dead by his fellow hikers and police officers who aided with the search effort. Police said relatives were notified of his disappearance on Saturday evening. A search and rescue team attempted to recover his body up to late Saturday evening. However, they were forced to return yesterday morning. The attempt continued well into the evening yesterday until the body was eventually recovered at around 4:30 p.m. In September, a mother of one, Anicia Lewis, was swept away by floodwaters while bathing at a waterfall in Bagatelle, Diego Martin. The body of the 31-year-old was later recovered miles away out at sea near the Trinidad&Tobago Yacht Club. Last week, 20-year-old Samuel Pierre drowned in Pleasantville while hunting with friends. He was attempting to cross the Sapero River to catch an iguana. His body was later recovered from the river by Coast Guard divers 2 days later. Hikers and even police have urged hikers and those venturing to bathe in the river to observe the weather conditions, since this could jeopardize their safety and even their life. Princestown MP Barry Paradat insists that the government must consult with NGC before changing water and electricity rates. During yesterday's press conference, Princestown MP Barry Paradat made it absolutely clear that before any move is made to change water and electricity rates, the government must indicate what price TNTEC is paying for gas from the National Gas Company. Paradat said it appeared that the Regulated Industries Commission was being manipulated by the government. The government must say whether they have removed in whole or in part the gas subsidy. Gas is sold to TTEC and negotiated through NGC that would inform new prices, he said. He added, the RIC must say why they have made no allocations for public consultations. They must not use the SOE and COVID regulations to stifle the views of citizens. Paradat also alleged that online consultations were a farce. Government will use its heavy hand to silence people by ensuring they don't participate in public consultations. This thing about sending your emails and messages will not work. The government is using COVID-19 situation as an excuse not to give a voice to the people of TNT, he added. Paradat also questioned the reason for major cuts to WASA. $232 million was cut for contract employment, $100 million for materials and supplies. Is it to emasculate and demonize WASA for privatization to friends, families, and financiers? He added. He reiterated the RIC must not be manipulated by government and must fulfill their statutory obligation to hold public consultations. Part of the process is to evaluate the satisfaction of the service. With massive cuts to WASA this year and the problems at both WASA and TTEC, it is an attempt to further demonize these institutions. Paradat also said the government must say whether TTEC is bankrupt. They currently owe NGC billions of dollars, and the finance minister in February said they took a $5 billion loan to put in NGC books as it relates to the debt TNTEC owes NGC. However, the minister did not say that the debt is written off, thereby leaving TNTEC with billions they owe, Paradat added. He said people across the country were suffering for water, particularly in South and Central Trinidad, noting that the RIC must ensure that they consult with the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Police probe homicide of 4 men over the weekend. Homicide investigators were kept busy on Saturday night and early Sunday morning as 4 homicides had occurred. In the first instance, officers are investigating the demise of a Diego Martin man in Laventille on Saturday evening. Investigators reported that around 9:15 p.m., gunshots were heard coming from the corner of St. Paul Street. When residents checked, they spotted the man lying in the roadway with multiple gunshot wounds. The police were called in. The officers identified the man as Keenan Craig of Pregnancy Lane, La Puerta Lane, Diego Martin. Officers are trying to determine why Craig was in the area at the time and a motive for the homicide. Police are also investigating the demise of a man from St. John Road, St. Augustine, and the wounding of another. Officers report that around 9:40 p.m. on Saturday evening, Dennis Garcia was driving his car with Andrew Phillip in the front passenger seat. Both men are from St. Michael Village, St. John Road, St. Augustine. Police were told that 2 armed men were standing close to a shop in the area and opened fire on Garcia and Phillip as they passed in their vehicle. Garcia drove his vehicle to the Army base along St. John Road, St. Augustine, in the vicinity of Noel Trace to seek help and was taken to the Eric Williams Medical Complex where he was treated for gunshot wounds to his upper back and the back of his head. He is listed in stable condition. However, Phillip was shot and died on the scene. Police said 31 spent shells were found, and in La Horquetta, 29-year-old Rico Pavi of Daisy Lane, La Horquetta, was erased. Police said officers were on mobile patrol when they got a report about a shooting on Daisy Lane. When they arrived, they saw Pavi dead. They were told he was standing outside when a man walked up to him and opened fire. He died on the spot, and hours later, another homicide occurred in La Horquetta. Just after 12 on Sunday morning, Kevin Prescott, 35, of Petra Crescent, La Horquetta, was erased. Police said Prescott was at home when he heard someone call out to him. He opened the gallery door, and as he was walking outside to the yard, he was shot several times. Police have not indicated if the homicides in La Horquetta are connected. They are searching for suspects in connection with all 4 homicides. Safe zones open today after intense preparations. The government's TNT Safe Zones initiative launches today with vaccinated employees of bars, restaurants, gyms, theaters, cinemas, water parks, as well as licensed gaming houses, betting pools, and private members' clubs being able to open and serve vaccinated citizens. Yesterday, employees worked long hours in preparation for the highly anticipated opening. For restaurants, today will be the first time since April 29 that in-house dining will be permitted. Yesterday, at Woodford Cafe at Prize Plaza in Chaguanas, an electrician was checking the bulbs on the restaurant's exterior while other employees cleaned its interior. Part owner Martin Hatem was also there to overlook preparations. While he did not know what to expect in terms of a turnout, he was still looking forward to the resumption of in-house service because business, he said, has been essentially non-existent. Hatem said he will adhere to the government's policies, but he did express concern about the vaccinated-only entrance policy for in-house dining. I am not in agreement with the policy, but it is what the government wants to call a safe zone, so we are willing to try it and see how it works, he said. Saying it has been very difficult to keep afloat financially only with curbside and takeout options, he said many restaurants will be forced to shut their doors if in-house dining is prohibited again. Over in Marival, staff at the Blue Star Diner came out from 10 a.m. yesterday to begin preparations. As they worked, all members of staff in full uniform wore wristbands indicating that they were vaccinated. Before discussing the dinner's plans for today, General Manager Deborah Finley sought to make it clear that staff who are not vaccinated will not be at work. We are excited to come back to work. It's been basically 15 months, so we are very excited to get back to work, she said. Similar preparations were underway from 7 a.m. at Trotter's and Buzu Osteria Italiana. According to the operations coordinator of Trent Restaurants, Victor Raymond, vaccinated members of staff were excited and mentally prepared to return to work. He expressed confidence that everything was in place at both restaurants to meet the government's safe zone policies. It's simple. If you're not vaccinated, you can't enter. You have to identify yourself as a safe zone. So you have the safe zone at the entrance, he said. In San Fernando, 519 restaurant at C3 Center was fully prepared to resume in-house service. We have everything in place to follow all the protocols. All our staff is fully vaccinated. We will not be selling alcohol. It's only to go. We also have curbside pickup for those who are not vaccinated, General Manager Kathleen Sammy said. With gyms reopening for the first time since late April, preparations were already complete at Evolution Fitness in Chaguanas. General Manager Rondell Brown said all equipment was in place and sanitized, while a system to ensure the gym does not become overcrowded was in effect. He said, as for now, there will be no time limit for customers because there was ample space on the 3 floors of the gym. I think I'll be up at 3 a.m. just anticipating the curfew. So as soon as 5 a.m. hits, I'll head out to work. I'm really excited because this is my zone. This is my career. I was thrilled to start back to work, Brown said. There was no preparation taking place at several bars in Central and West Trinidad. Under TT Safe Zone policy, alcohol is not allowed to be consumed at bars or restaurants. And as businesses prepared for the TT Safe Zone launch today, 8 people, including the leader of the First Wave movement, Umar Abdullah, protested around the savannah yesterday. Abdullah, with a Trinidad and Tobago flag in hand, said the group was there to pray for the nation and its citizens and leaders. Abdullah said people ought to push back against the safe zone system. It's going to fail. Businesses and the entertainment industry will be relying on a small group of people to sustain their businesses. They won't be able to pay their rent. They won't be able to pay their workers, he said. According to the government's TT Safe Zone policy, only vaccinated people 12 years and over are allowed to enter safe zones. They must present proof of vaccination and identification. Businesses must also have TT Safe Zone signage at all entry points. Owners and operators of businesses found in breach of Safe Zone regulations face a fixed penalty fine of $25,000, while customers are subject to a fixed penalty fine of $5,000. Budget debate ends after opposition fails to produce a speaker. The budget debate ended quickly on Saturday after the opposition failed to produce a speaker. There was a moment of confusion on the parliament floor before Finance Minister Colm Imbert returned and wrapped up the proceedings. It is obvious that the presentation by the other side has collapsed, and there is a very good reason for that because there is nothing in this 2021 to 2022 budget that they can get their teeth into, Imbert said. The debate started at 10 a.m. on Saturday and moved from speaker to speaker until just after 5:30 p.m. when the opposition was unable to produce anyone after the MP for Dabade Omera, Lisa Morris-Julian. For almost 15 minutes there was silence and crosstalk, prompting Deputy Speaker Esmond Ford to remind the House that it was still in session. Speaker Bridget Anisette George returned and briefly conferred with Ford. This 2022 budget is one of the most transformational budgets presented in this parliament, Imbert said. Imbert said that his presentation was a blueprint for the growth and transformation of TNT. I've listened very carefully to the members opposite. There is nothing that I've heard from the other side that really warrants a response. Very, very little, he said. In fact, I can simply conclude this winding up by saying I beg to move. But since members opposite had nothing to say, I was very disappointed in the leader of the opposition. Imbert said opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisasar lacked the stamina to speak for as long as he spoke. I could have easily have spoken for another 2 or 3 hours, he said, adding that Prasad Bisasar gave up after 2 hours. The budget was passed and the Standing Finance Committee was set for Monday. Foreign Affairs Minister Dr. Amory Brown sounded a warning against taking medical advice from social media. Brown participated in the budget debate on Saturday and called on people to carefully consider advice on social media. Many of those ranting on social media and raving and discouraging you, the citizens, from being vaccinated, many of them are already vaccinated or will soon wish they were as Delta spreads around the world, he said. He also advised the young people to ignore the naysayers. I want to thank the Minister of Finance for what I see as a visionary budget that has all the stimuli that our economy needs, he said. He did not dress it up and call it a stimulus package like in a rich developed nation, but that is what it is, Brown said. Brown also said that the budget was well received. There was a tremendous acclaim for the fiscal measures announced by the Minister of Finance, Imbert said. Brown said that normally conservative business groups like the Trinidad and Tobago Manufacturers Association, the Confederation of Business Chambers, and the Chaguanas Chamber of Commerce were more accepting of the budget. Prime Minister defends Al-Rawi on attacks over indemnity issue. Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley is standing by his Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi on attacks over the exposed details of an alleged letter of indemnity between Al-Rawi and state witness Vincent Nelson QC in a corruption case against former AG Anand Ramlogan. Al-Rawi has been under attack by both opposition leader Kamla Prasad Bisasar and Senator Wade Mark in the past week after the details of an alleged indemnity issued in favor of Nelson, who is the state's main witness in criminal proceedings against Ramlogan SC, and former Senator Gerard Ramdeen, was circulated in social media. Questions then arose as to whether Nelson, as a state witness, was given improper inducements to help build a case against Ramlogan and Ramdeen. Al-Rawi spoke to Guardian Media on Saturday and explained why he was holding his tongue on the issue. But on Friday night, Rowley was vocal in his defense of the AG. He spoke to the issue for the first time at the People's National Movement virtual meeting in Belmont. The matter had been in the public domain over the past week and was met with stony silence from both the AG and the Prime Minister. Prasad Bisasar raised it in Parliament during her contribution to the budget debate earlier on Friday. "Shame on you," he said to Prasad Bisasar. "The opposition leader is like a dog with a rag attacking the Attorney General and asking questions about what deal he made with Nelson," he said. "You know who Nelson is. Nelson is British Queen's Counsel, no ordinary person. A British Queen's Counsel who, in the hands of his lawyers, turns state witness to extricate facts and figures, date and time, telling TNT, cooperating with us, so the police could put in handcuffs members of the cabinet of Kamla Prasad Bisasar for public money that had gone missing." And you hear this from the opposition leader about the Attorney General making deals. Let me ask you a question. Do you see the American Attorney General making deals with people to turn state witness to get evidence to prosecute people? Rowley localized the issue and referenced a murder in TNT where one of the accused turned state witness and the others responsible were convicted. He questioned why Prasad Bisasar was throwing out the story of that deal. There is a lot that we in the government know that we are not talking about because they want us to talk about it because that would become their defense. They're looking for a defense to say publicity or political. So we've kept our silence last election and now, Rowley said. Prasad Bisasar, during her contribution to the budget debate on Friday, condemned Al Rawi for the indemnity agreement. Prasad Bisasar said she had written to the Attorney General for England and Wales, Suella Braverman QC, about the secret agreement between a British national and a local government official. In the event that a request is made by the United Kingdom for assistance in this matter of a criminal nature relating to Mr. Nelson, the alleged agreement avers that the Attorney General of Trinidad and Tobago shall conceal and refuse to provide such information to the United Kingdom, she said. This is in direct contravention of multiple binding and enforceable international obligations between T&T and the United Kingdom, including the MACM Act, Prasad Bisasar noted. I am advised that Mr. Nelson QC also had certain personal matters that were before the High Court in the UK, and which may have been impacted by the disclosure of these payments. Al Rawi, however, said he was unable to say anything on the issue. The reason I am prohibited from engaging in pre-trial publicity and prohibited from discussing evidence is to ensure that a fair trial is held with due process so as to allow a verdict of either guilt or innocence. This is associated with the principle of being innocent until proven guilty. Conviction or acquittal being matters solely for the court, not for me, Al Rawi said yesterday. In a telephone interview, the AG said he was being targeted because the opposition was desperate. I accept that Mistress Prasad Bisasar and members of the opposition will be extremely afraid and descend to desperation on account of matters that are before the courts and others which are imminent to be brought before the courts here and elsewhere, he said. While the allegation of the provision of an indemnity has been discussed in the public domain, the AG has been silent on the matter. I have been very judicious in my statements. I have only said things when I was compelled to, he said. Al Rawi said he had alerted the DPP International Investigative and Prosecutorial Agencies as well as the UK AG to the actions of Prasad Bisasar. The AG said he was never one to bust mark on the political platform. But you will also note that I have been an officer that has brought about serious criminal charges against members of the opposition. In no other way than in the supervised, scrutinized, and where required independent processes of investigations conducted by the TTPS and international agencies, directions by the Office of the DPP, and approvals in some instances by the court itself as it relates to the steps taken by others in plea agreements, Al Rawi said. According to a media report last week, the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP, Roger Gaspard, said he was not privy to discussions relating to any indemnity before the commencement of the criminal proceedings and said that the only agreement he had with Nelson was a plea deal approved by the court. He referred questions to the AG relative to any civil proceedings. To that, Al Rawi said that a plea agreement was a product of a High Court judge after a process. The issue of whistleblowing testimony is a very large one, and we must be careful to avoid discussion of matters of evidence before the courts, lest we prejudice the doctrine of fair trial, he said. In criminal proceedings, there's an obligation of disclosure, such that all materials judicial to the prosecution's case have to be disclosed. And I would tell Mrs. Prasad Bisasar, don't try to throw something out fast, because it doesn't look good to the institutions of law and democracy. There is a fair trial process, and there are rules of disclosure in common law and court rules of disclosure which have to be maintained. Al Rawi said that the Prime Minister was well aware of the propriety of his actions. I'd like to inform that I have taken no step at any point along the path that has led me to this discussion. I have taken no step without the advice of senior counsel, eminent silk, and international agencies and authorities where appropriate, he said.